Now at 6, this is Fox 61, Connecticut's news station.
Good evening and thanks for joining us for the Fox 61 News at 6. I'm Brent Harden.
And I'm Sarah Sanchez. We begin tonight discussing the war in Gaza. The conflict is rapidly expanding in the Middle East, but back here at home in Connecticut, the conflict is personal for some, whether people are celebrating Passover or taking part in protests.
Deadly Israeli airstrikes continue to hit Rafah while the IDF is preparing for a potential ground offensive there into the refugee camps. The Palestinian Civil Defense Agency saying tonight they've recovered more bodies from mass graves discovered at the Gaza Nasser Hospital, 283 so far, some dismembered. In the meantime, the U.S. Department of State claiming Hamas negotiators have moved the goalpost when it comes to hostage negotiations. Hamas demanding a permanent ceasefire and the unhindered return of displaced Palestinians to their homes in Gaza.
In New Haven, more than 40 people have been arrested refusing to disband. Hundreds of Yale students have marched, chanted, and camped out on campus. They're demanding the university divest from military weapon manufacturers arming Israel in Gaza. Our crews have been in New Haven since last week talking to student organizers and school leadership.
The plan is to stay and to continue resisting until Yale Corporation discloses and divests from military weapon investments.
Liberation now, we shall not be moved just like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be moved.
After the pro-Palestinian crowd was pushed from campus, the protest evolved into a sit-in where students blocked traffic near the corner of Grove and Prospect Streets, and now they've left the busy intersection, continuing on campus. Fox 61's Julia LeBlanc has been there all day and has an update now on where the protests stand tonight. Julia.
Hi, well, good evening to you both. Well, as you can see behind us here, the intersection here near Grove and Prospect Streets is cleared out now. Traffic is moving smoothly and nothing left in the street where there were students sitting before except messages of chalk in the roadway. And the students have moved their demonstration back to campus after police asked them to move about an hour ago, and they listened to them. Now, this all after the students and some members of the community took part in that pro-Palestine sit-in in the middle of this street for hours. Police were here monitoring the situation all day, eventually bringing in busloads of about 30 New Haven police officers around 5 p.m., ready to make arrests if necessary.
We stuck with what we normally do, where we block off the road and we allow people First Amendment right to protest and to usually walk around the city. It's just when they take an intersection, it's very challenging.
Now, those involved in the protests are calling for Yale University's Board of Trustees to disclose their investments in any weapons companies, asking them to put a halt to those investments. And while this afternoon's protest ended peacefully, this morning it was a bit of a different story. The students were sleeping in tents overnight at Beneke Plaza on campus when they were woken up by Yale police early this morning who asked them to leave. Now, those who refused were arrested and charged with trespassing, which is a misdemeanor. Police made a total of 48 arrests, a small price to pay, according to one of the organizers of the protests, in order to get their message across.
Yale is an educational institution. There's no reason for Yale to be investing in the bombs that are killing civilians in Gaza. It just does not make any sense, and so that's what we're going to keep saying, and we're going to keep mobilizing until Yale listens to us.
Now, a spokesperson for Yale did send out a statement saying that the university has been trying to work with some of the protesters to come to the table and talk about this whole thing, and they haven't been successful in coming to any kind of an agreement so far. And as for those arrests that were made earlier this morning, we are learning that some of those students could face some disciplinary action on campus, including but definitely not limited to suspension. Again, the students are back on campus at this moment. They cleared out this intersection and they are continuing their demonstrations there. We're live here in New Haven tonight. Julia LeBlanc, Fox 61, Connecticut's news station.
Thank you, Julia. Meanwhile, on Capitol Hill, it was a big weekend. The House of Representatives passed a $95 billion foreign aid package for Ukraine, Taiwan, and Israel.
But it's not headed to the president's desk quite yet. This package has to make it through the Senate first. Fox 61 political reporter Emma Wolforst spoke with Connecticut's federal delegation and joins us now in studio. So, Emma, what are the senators telling you?
Brent, Sarah, Senators Blumenthal and Murphy say this package is a done deal. Blumenthal telling me he believes it will be brought to a floor vote tomorrow and expects it to pass as early as tomorrow night with what he says will be an overwhelming bipartisan majority. Celebration on the House floor Saturday after lawmakers passed emergency aid packages for Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. But it's not a done deal just yet.
The House will be in order.
The $95 billion package now heads to the Senate, where it's expected to be voted on and passed Tuesday.
I have every confidence that the Senate will do the right thing because we did months ago when we approved Ukrainian Israeli aid.
This measure includes $60.8 billion in long-awaited aid for Ukraine, which those in the middle of the war say is essential.
I couldn't imagine what the scenario would be had this bill not passed the House. Unfortunately, in spite, even with this aid coming, we have a lot of dark and difficult battles ahead again and again.
Bobby was born in Connecticut, but moved to Ukraine in 2005. She says what happens in Ukraine does matter back home in the U.S.
My personal life and the life of my Ukrainian compatriots and our capacity to live in Ukraine, it depends on you.
The package also has $26 billion in aid for Israel and humanitarian relief for Gaza.
Many of us have been fighting hard to make sure that if we're sending aid to Israel, it is used in a manner very different than what we have seen over the course of the last several months. I don't believe that winning the war against Hamas requires you to kill 13,000 children. I just don't.
Even though this bill had strong bipartisan support in the House, Speaker Mike Johnson's job is still on the line as a handful of Republicans say his days with the gavel could be numbered.
Speaker Johnson will not be impeached. Clearly, Democrats would help if that were the case.
And these aid bills were passed separately in the House over the weekend, but sent as a package to the Senate. Part of this deal now also passed by the House Saturday, a bill to force the sale of TikTok. China-based ByteDance would have to sell TikTok within 9 months or face a nationwide ban. Blumenthal telling me this afternoon there will be no changes or amendments to this aid package, meaning the measure to sell TikTok will remain in this bill. Sarah, Brent.
All right, Emma, thank you. And we are staying on this rare 4-bill aid package, how it could impact Connecticut industry and possible changes in congressional leadership.
Plus, what else was snuck inside that package, like the TikTok sale? Stay with us. We'll be breaking that down for you coming up at 6:30.
Now, the Fox 61 Weather Watch with Chief Meteorologist Rachel Frank.
We have lots of sunshine ahead this week for a change. However, we also have frost to talk about, not just for tonight into tomorrow morning, but for several nights and mornings this week. So a frost advisory is in effect into tomorrow morning. The only area it's not in effect for is Litchfield County. That does not mean it's going to be any warmer there. In fact, temperatures will be colder. But in Litchfield County, it's too early in the season, so the National Weather Service is not issuing any of those alerts just yet. You'll also see it's not in effect for the shoreline of Fairfield and New Haven counties, where temperatures might be a few degrees too high. So if you have any early season plants, you can cover them with a light blanket, or if they're potted plants, you can bring them inside. Satellite and radar is quiet across the Northeast. We love to see it for the news at 11. We'll see temperatures dropping back into the 40s, and we're in the 30s as we head towards daybreak tomorrow. Here's a look at those overnight lows. Below freezing for Windham, near freezing for Windsor Locks, and 38 by tomorrow morning in New Haven. But lots of sun, a beautiful afternoon with highs in the low to mid 60s. We'll talk about the other frosty chances later this week and time out some showers coming up.
Thank you, Rachel. Well, breaking news just into the newsroom from Wallingford. Police say the young woman and baby who reportedly died in a house fire last week were actually dead before the fire broke out. 19-year-old Charisma Johnson and 9-month-old Kylen Varnado's bodies were found at the home on Geneva Avenue last week. A third victim, 24-year-old Justin Varnado, died at the hospital. Police say Varnado had been arrested in late March on domestic violence charges. He was barred from showing up at that Geneva home. The medical examiner is still investigating cause of death for Charisma and baby Kylen.
New details in the officer-involved shooting in Colchester. The man shot by police has died. It happened at a multifamily home on Norwich Avenue last Thursday evening. Details are still limited, but the Office of the Inspector General says a preliminary report and body camera footage of the incident will be released early this week. Well, state troopers have been under a microscope after an audit found a high likelihood that they falsified 260,000 tickets. An independent investigation cleared most troopers of intentional wrongdoing, but pointed out a pattern of what they called sloppiness. Well, now yet another look from a group called Intragrassure, which includes a former Connecticut police chief, suggested in their new report every traffic cop get 3 random audited stops per month. They recommend each review cross-reference dispatch logs and state database, body cam footage, and even license plate readers. They also said AI could possibly learn traffic stop patterns and flag reporting mistakes in real time. The question now is, will the state agree, and if departments have enough manpower, tech, or funding to make it happen?